Welcome to the Tattooed Truth Podcast with Anna Love, a space for embodied conversations for soul-led rebels. I'm your host, Anna Love, intuitive empowerment coach, subconscious healing guide, and no stranger to burning it all down to rise in truth. Here we dive deep into identity, healing, personal power, and what it really takes to lead a soul-aligned life. You'll hear unfiltered insights, real stories, and live coaching sessions with bold callers ready to break free and embody their next level. This is your invitation to reclaim your voice, rewire your patterns, and rise fully expressed. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Tattooed Truth Podcast. This is where we peel back the layers, break the subconscious patterns, and recreate your identity from the inside out so that you can live a life that actually lights you up. I'm your host, Anna Love, and today we're talking about abundance, not as a manifestation hack, not as a mindset trick, but as an embodied state of being. I am so excited about this episode. Let's dive in. So, the law of abundance, and you may have heard this out there in the world, maybe other people are talking about it, but here is where the real deal lies. This is the information that will change your life. The law of abundance says that there is infinite supply. Okay, your experience of that supply is determined by your state of consciousness. And I talk a lot about being aware, being awake, being conscious. Neville Goddard puts it simply: you do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. What you assume to be true becomes your world. And listen, these are the things that people do not talk about in schools, in the families that I grew up around, including my own. If I had known these little bits of information here about the law of abundance, life would have been significantly different for me. So I want you to listen up and start applying this law specifically to your life and see what shifts. Because most people misunderstand abundance because they try to manifest from lack. And manifesting is a buzzword now. A lot of you may be hearing that word as well. And it's very confusing depending on who you listen to. And I was always thinking in the past that manifesting meant just saying positive things. Oh, if I just say my affirmations, everything will be great. If I just stay positive, right? You'll see things written on t-shirts or mugs of stay positive, happy vibes only. And it's not just about that, all right? That's what one of my coaches said to me. That is sprinkles on an ice cream cone of shit. Now, go ahead. That's nasty to picture, but you get the idea. We cannot just dress up an ice cream cone with sprinkles. Sure, it looks pretty, but we have to look at what's underneath. What is the reality of what's filling up that ice cream cone? So I love analogies. So when you manifest from lack, you are typically manifesting from where you are at, what you are living, what you are vibrating, what you are in frequency as. So if you don't have money, you're going to say, I want money, right? And the word want is an indication to the universe that you don't have it. If you're saying, I want this or that, that is an absolute indication that you do not have the thing. So therefore, you are being lack. I need more clients. I want to feel secure. I want more love. I want a boyfriend. I want more money. That suggests that you don't have them. And when you are living in that place in your body, it's a frequency, if it's a vibration. The subconscious only hears the state. It only hears the feelings. Okay. So when you say, I don't have enough, I'm not supported, and I'm not chosen, it hears when you say, I don't have enough, basically you're telling the universe that you are not enough, that you don't believe that you deserve enough. Okay. So the universe will mirror that. It will literally hold up if you look at your reality and you go, well, look it's right there. I can't fight it. A lot of people get very defensive about this. They're like, what do you mean I can have it? How do I get it? I only have this much in my bank account. Yeah, if you hold up your reality and you hold up a mirror to what you are being inside your body and how you are vibrating, you are only going to be able to have that much because that's what the universe brings you. Okay. It's a mirror. All right. Abundance is not a chase, it's a relationship to yourself. This is what the key is that no one is talking about unless they're listening to the right people who have learned from people like Neville Goddard. So it's a knowing, it's a state. All right. It's assuming the law of assumption. It's assuming I am supported because then that creates a frequency that will mirror out into the universe what it is that you are already being. When you say, I am chosen, okay, now the two words in the beginning of these sentences are I am. I am is honestly all you need. You are what you are. So I am is a complete sentence. I am, I am. What are you being? I am, I am, I am. Right. And then you can fill in the blank. How are you being? I am being supported. Okay. Well, then you're going to find support. I am being chosen. Okay. Well, then you're going to actually be chosen. I am being provided for. Yes, you will be. Life shows up for me because I show up for myself. And that is it right there. That is the secret sauce. When you start doing the thing, when most people are looking for other people to fill you up, other people to create certainty for them, other people to validate them, they are looking for evidence on the outside world, going, where is it? When I find it, I will have it. When I see it, I will believe it. And the secret is the opposite. You must be, isn't this like gold? This is it. Had I been told this when I was 4 years old, life would have been so different. Life shows up for you when you show up for you. You must be the initiator. Okay. So, the truth about abundance as an identity, right? This is a big deal here. Identity is a big, big deal. Your identity is the architect of your abundance, right? So, it's what I was just talking about, but let's just dive a little deeper in. When you are not understanding that identity is the architect of your abundance, you miss the essential point and you are out there trying to, maybe you're in college and you're trying to get a degree. Maybe you're out there hustling with four different jobs could because you're trying to get money. Maybe you're dating and dating and dating and dating and dating because you're trying to find the perfect one. But if you don't believe that you're the perfect one, he's not going to be the perfect one or she, whoever you're out there dating. So most people are trying to create the new outcome of their life from an old identity. All right. So when you start to realize that your identity is the beginning, you must get that you have to shift the identity. You start thinking about, okay, well, who am I being? Who do I identify with? Do I identify with someone who is constantly, have you ever met people who are like, oh, there are no good guys out there. There are no good girls out there. Why bother? And then they go on dates anyway because they feel like they have to keep doing, the grind. But then they show up vibrationally at this low frequency. And then that person in front of them could be their perfect person, but that person's turned off. They're not on that channel because maybe that person feels like, they've got their identity where they want it and they are going to call in their perfect person, but somehow they ended up on this date with this person. Their frequencies must have matched at some point for them to even be on the date together. But then when they get there, all of a sudden, they're on different channels, right? They're literally on different channels, different frequencies, and things don't vibe. And so they just walk away going, I thought that was a good fit, but it wasn't. When really one of the people started to doubt or started to say, I'm not enough, or there's no good ones out there. So of course, this next one could be the best one, but doesn't, right? He can't live up to the potential because you just shut it down. All right. So if you grew up with, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I grew up hearing money doesn't grow on trees. And literally, that was like a weekly statement. Whenever I'd want something that was a little uncomfortable for my family, they would spout things at me like, oh, you just have expensive taste. And guess what? I still have it. And I have those items now. Not that material items are the end all be all, but I don't make it bad or wrong. Growing up, if I picked something, say, which one do you want? Or if, if that was an option, or I'd look at something and I'd say, hey, I want this one. And they would immediately go to fear. They would immediately go to scarcity. They would immediately go to, you can't have it. They would immediately go to getting defensive. What do you think? Money grows on trees? I'm really like, what are you talking about? Well, yes, in fact, I have a money tree. I have a money tree right in my house right now, and money grows on trees in my house because that's what I created. So that's a fact. That's what I believe. My belief is I am a grower of money trees, and you can too. Have you ever believed or had an identity that, or saw someone, or you did this where you had to earn love by doing XYZ, maybe by overworking or overdoing or overcompensating or overgiving? Have you ever had that? I know that I've done that myself. I know that I've seen the women in my family doing that. You must burn yourself out in order to look like you're working hard enough or you've done enough, right? I have a sneaking suspicion that you've met someone like this, or you've grown up in a family member like this. If you're listening to this podcast and this resonates, I'd love to hear about this, and I'll tell you where to find me in a little bit. But let's keep going. Have you ever felt or identified with an identity that feels safer shrinking than being fully seen? I know that was my story. I've talked about it in other podcasts, but my story was that I had to play small, and I didn't know. It was just part of my identity. I literally didn't know that I was doing this. I didn't know that I identified with playing small. I just did, because that's what other people did around me. And that's what it felt vibrationally like. It was conflicting. It felt comfortable, but there was a part of me that wanted more, but then I kept just putting my own invisible borders up so that I wouldn't get bigger, because then people might talk about me. People might not approve of me. People might think that I'm better than them, because that was part of my identity. Don't be too big. Don't be flashy. Don't be too much, because all of that means that you think that you are better than everybody else around you. That was literally ingrained in my upbringing. And also, I did this, and let me know if this is for you, an identity that believes that you have to hustle for every dollar, right? You have to work really hard. You have to get 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs. And while I am a proponent for working rather than just sitting around going, okay, well, I guess I'll just, I don't know, not work and see what the government gives me, or not work because what's the point, right? No, go get a second job, go get a third job. However, that when that is your identity, then that's always going to be the way you are. You're going to be 70 still working 3 jobs, right? And instead, you get to change your identity around that. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So Neville would say you are trying to manifest the mansion when thinking like a tenant. I love that analogy, right? So you could be sitting in your house. Maybe you are on the brink of poverty. Maybe you are having to hustle. Maybe you are struggling with an identity crisis, like, who am I in this world? What am I even doing here? Okay. And you're saying, well, I can imagine myself with a mansion. I can see what a mansion looks like. And I want that. I want that. And you're making vision boards, and you're cutting pictures out of magazines and going, yeah, this looks great. I want a 3-car garage, and I want these cars to be in there. You could be painting this beautiful picture. Guess what? That's not enough. Why is it not enough? Because your identity is still wrapped around, that's not for me. That's just something that looks really nice. And maybe one day down the road, I'll be able to have that. Well, you cannot manifest that if you are living in a completely different way in your frequency. All right. So you cannot desire abundance while being unconsciously loyal to the identity of scarcity. And I will say, this is where I say it's not your fault. So it's not your fault if it's an unconscious program. Like I said, it's from childhood or from wherever else you picked it up, right? So what's important is that you start to wake up from the programming. You start to listen to these words. The whole point of me being on this podcast is not to just sit around in this empty room talking to myself. It's so that I can spread this beautiful word, these beautiful learnings of the things that I literally didn't know until I knew. And that's okay. I have grace for the way that I used to identify with, and that I lived a certain amount of years that way, and now it's time to shift. So abundance comes when you become the version of you who already feels worthy. You already feel worthy. When you feel worthy inside because you are connecting with your self-worth, you're not looking on the outside to go, well, who do I have to be for this person to think that I'm worthy? Okay, the worth comes from the inside. And we can go deeper on all of this, but I'm just giving you a quick skim, all right? Some ideas because not everybody is dealing with issues of self-worth. Some people are dealing with issues of feeling safe. So when you become the version of you who feels safe, okay, then you are safe. Then safety comes to you. And I used to walk around the world and literally my model of the world, that's something that I can save. I think I have that in like podcast number 3 or something like that. But go back to listen to that podcast. My model of the world is not safe. Okay, so when that is my reality and that is my identity, then what do you think is going to happen? What do you think I'm going to call in? What is my reality going to mirror? Obviously, not safe. So another one, supported. When you become the version of you who already feels supported, you will find people starting to reach out and support you. Okay, when you feel enough, the version of you who feels enough, when you feel it, right? You have to become it. You have to embody it. You have to actually be it. I am enough. And I've had debates with people about like, well, what is enough anyway? They're like, well, I don't understand enough. What is enough? How can anyone not be enough? Or how far can it be? You're more than enough. That is literally every single struggle and every client I've ever dealt with is that when we really get down to it, people say, I don't feel enough. And that means whatever it means to that person. It could mean to my mother, to my father, to my teacher, to my friends. But at the end of the day, when we give ourselves the enoughness and we say, look, I'm put on this planet, I was brought into this world, I'm in this body, in this soul, because I am meant to be here. I am meant to be here. And there's no discussion. There's no worry. There's no concern. You're here because you're meant to be here. That means you're enough. That means you're worthy. Now, whether you grew up in a safe family, that's a whole other thing. But there's ways to create safety and then you'll bring it in and call it in. Same thing with support. You may be brought into crackheads. You might be brought into a violent family. No, you're not actually safe. I'm not trying to freaking pretend that you're safe when you're not. I'm not trying to say, let's like ignore what's in front of you, but I'm trying to say you can break the cycle when you start to wake up. Now, if you're a 7-year-old, you're not going to wake up and go, let me break the cycle. I remember when I was a kid and I realized I'm the one who created that. I did that model of the world that I am not safe when I was 9 years old. I didn't have the power back then to break this cycle. So I created this as a means of protection. And that's what you have to realize too, and give yourself grace and give yourself compassion that part of the programming is protection. That is your unconscious mind helping you. However, down the line, when you're not 7 and when you're not 10 and when you're not 15, you don't need that protection anymore like you did when you were a child. Okay. So if you're born into violence or drug addiction, let's just say the worst case scenarios, in my opinion, yeah, you're fucked. You're going to go down a little bit of a bumpy path for a while. You're not going to be able to be aware and awake when you're an infant and go, let me call in abundance through safety. That's just not happening, right? You're not even in that place. It's not available. However, what you can do when you're listening to this podcast and you start reading things like Neville Goddard's Law of Abundance, you can start to learn, okay, that happened in the past. That was my truth. I went through those events. I've got some trauma, got some residual trauma hanging out in my body. What are we going to do about it? All right. So, and this is where the beauty of all the modalities that I've learned up until this point, whether it's NLP, whether it's internal family systems, whether it's somatic healing, whether it's hypnotherapy, brain spotting, like all the freaking things, everyone's just trying to get to the same result. They're just doing it in a different way. They're doing it in a different, modality is what they call it. But looking at the different ways that I bring you back to yourself and bring you back to your home base. If you're dealing with the learnings of Neville Goddard, he calls them misplaced assumptions. All right. So if you're dealing with internal family systems, Dick Schwartz would call it, you're working with the protectors. And these are the parts of you that are coming in and creating that place of scarcity, that place of I'm not safe, that place of I'm not enough, that place of I'm not worthy. So I'm just explaining like why that all happens. And we need to have compassion because it's there for a reason. It's there because we had some adversity. If you're in the somatic world, they would call it your stored survival states, right? Like because your trauma stays in the body, right? Your body keeps the score. And so your mind can think one way and you could be out there pretending and being like, oh, look at me, look at all my fancy, look at my hair, look at my nails, look at my lashes, look at my shoes, look at my phone, look at my clothes, look at my career. And it's all a facade. It's all smoke and mirrors because underneath you could be living with all kinds of unworthiness, but people can't see that. But what's going on is your body is storing the trauma. Okay. And so people have a breakdown, people have a life crisis, people have an identity crisis. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, shit, I've got $50,000 of cool stuff in my apartment to keep me distracted. But at the end of the day, I'm having panic attacks, right? That's where the work would come in. So whatever modality, whatever language, the person that you're following is using, it's all the same underneath. If you don't feel safe being abundant, your subconscious will keep you where you are. So it's protection, not punishment, but inadvertently it is holding you back. And so there are people out there, and I used to be one of them with a victim mindset going, nothing goes ever right in my life. Fuck my life. I hate my life. Oh my God, everything's always going wrong. That was my life. That was how I spoke. That was the vibration I lived at. And that's why part of the reasons why, I ended up getting a divorce is because that's the mindset I was in. Like, let's just like sabotage the shit out of this because I'm not getting what I want. I'm not being heard. I'm not being seen. So let's just leave. Right. So it's very damaged. When you have these like belief systems, they're very damaging. And, you must be the one. You must be the one. Let's just mic drop right there. You must be the one who feels the abundance even before the evidence shows up. So instead of seeing it to believe it, you need to believe it to see it. Okay. And Neville Goddard talks about this. And this is the point of this whole podcast is, I am obsessed with his teachings. Because it changed my whole entire life. When you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you will receive that in your reality. So just look around at your reality. Look around and see, do I like my friends? Do I like my career? Do I like my bank account? Do I like the way when I open my eyes in the morning, how I feel about my day? Or do I want to roll over and go back to sleep for 5 more hours? Look at my habits. Am I working out? Am I eating and filling my body up with, nutritious food and nourishment? Or am I drinking a lot? Am I excessively doing drugs? Am I excessively doing anything? Like even too much exercise is bad. Like look at your habits, look at your reality and see what needs some tweaking. And I'm not here to sit on a soapbox and say everyone needs to change and everyone needs to be 100% at everything. No, it's not about what I think. It's about what's true. It's about what's true. And if you're miserable, then look around at your reality and then look around at what you are being. How are you being? Right? What does it feel like inside? And that is where your identity work comes in, right? Changing what you feel like in your body, working on your nervous system, learning ways to regulate it, looking at your shadows, those places in the deep, dark past where your trauma lives and all those events that happened, looking at that stuff with a magnifying glass and doing some inner work there, clearing the beliefs out and creating new learnings and self-concept rebuilding, right? Because you cannot assume abundance from a dysregulated system or a wounded identity. You have to shift the internal state first. So let's just go through a couple of steps. And the first step is the biggest step, in my opinion. When your nervous system is dysregulated, when you are constantly living on edge, when you're constantly living in fight or flight, like I used to be, before I even knew anything about this stuff in my 30s and 20s, I was living in a state of not anxieties, but I know a lot of people who are in there, but what do I want to say? I was living in a state of fear confusion, head fogginess. And I didn't realize that those were ways that my body was trying to protect me. And my body was trying to like red alert, something's wrong. So the first step is like checking in with yourself. How am I feeling? How am I being? What's going on with my day to day? I never felt grounded. I felt like I was literally felt like I could never like feel grounded. I just have to say, there's a feeling of like 2 feet on the ground. I feel like stable. I didn't feel like that. And I didn't know why. I thought like I needed a drug. I was like, maybe if I just go smoke this joint, maybe if I go drink this cocktail. I don't know. I was waiting it out and I waited a really long time because I wasn't on the right track. And all the answers were right there, right inside of me. So to regulate your nervous system, abundance cannot land in a body that feels unsafe. You're never getting what you want. So you have to ask yourself, if you're feeling the ways that I just described, how would abundance feel in my body if I already had it? So you have to call in that safety. You have to figure out like, okay, let me work on nervous system. Let me do some breath work. Let me do some somatic healing. And then we start to release the identity that learned survival, right? And like I said earlier, the way that we're being is because we were surviving. We are just trying to get through. We are doing the best we can with what tools we have. But if you have no tools, how are you going to build the house? How are you going to fix the water heater? I don't know, whatever. Like, what do you need tools though? That's the point. So ask yourself, what version of me believes that I have to struggle? There's a version of you that believes you have to struggle if you're struggling. Okay. And then you have to assume the new identity. You have to claim it. You have to occupy it. You have to be it. If I were already abundant, who would I be right now? And you have to call in the version of you who would be doing those things. Not just how am I going? Most people go, how do I go do it? That is not it. You do not need to worry about how do I go do it. You don't need to worry about how to go do it, but you need to focus on who would I be? What would the version of me be to go do that? Right. And then be that version. Is this making sense? You must be the version. And then when you go start, you have to start walking. And then all of a sudden the roadmap will show up. Okay. You have to start walking. And then all of a sudden the universe will go, oh, I see her walking. Let me make this easier for her. Let me give her a path. And then the path, you have to believe. And this is the key. This is the secret sauce that no one tells you. This is a gold. And then you must embody that feeling without forcing. So we want to feel it in subtle ways. We want to notice, am I breathing differently? One breath can change and start to shift your life. Relaxing your shoulders, right? Softening the way that you're exhaling. I used to breathe from my chest. And when I was seeing a chiropractor, I had all these back problems. She said, look at the way you're breathing. You're breathing opposite. And I had absolutely no clue what she was talking about. I was like, what do you mean breathing opposite? I wasn't breathing through my diaphragm. I was breathing through my chest, which creates stress on your back. So just changing the way you breathe. Okay. When you breathe in, your diaphragm needs to be going out. When you breathe out, your diaphragm goes in. That's a different type of breathing technique that no one had ever explained to me before. And then you start to make different choices. When you can breathe easier, you can make choices from empowerment rather than scarcity and fear. So you then live from the identity, not the circumstances. So you choose from the future you, not the past you. The past is in the past. It doesn't identify you. It doesn't belong to you. It's no longer there. Yes, it happened. And yes, it formed the present moment. But this present moment is now yours to change. You don't have to identify, well, what just happened 5 minutes ago. Okay. So if I just made a mistake on this podcast, if I just like said something crazy and then I say, oh, okay, well, let me redo that. I'm going to now redo it as the version that I want it to be. I'm not going to go into the next moment and still carry with me the failure of what I just made the mistake about. I just go, okay, that's gone now. And so what do I want instead? I don't, but the old me used to focus, or a lot of us are out there living the present moment, still carrying the failures of our past. we're carrying the identity of I just made a mistake. So then we're going into the present moment, which then creates the future with feelings and vibrations of I just made a mistake and I'm not good enough. Instead of just letting it go. This is so exciting. Once you start to get this, and once this becomes, where it can roll off your tongue and this feels more normal, then you'll, instead of abnormal, like, oh, I'm just hearing about this for the first time. Let me reject this at first and then maybe like listen to this again. And then all of a sudden it's going to start to feel a little more like, oh, maybe I could get down with this, right? Let me just try this out for a bit. So, woo, that's a lot. That was a lot. But when we lead with our new identity, our new reality follows. So good. So good. So here's my closing message. Abundance is not something you chase. It's not something you prove. It's not something you earn. It's something you remember. It's something you align with. It's something you become. And you're not manifesting money, fame, love, whatever the thing is. You are manifesting your self concept. And your self concept manifests the rest. So I'd love for you to follow me on Instagram. I am.theannalove. Come check out what I have to offer over there. I've got some freebies. I've got some paid offers to work with me one-on-one. You can get into my weekly membership for $50 a month. The first month is free, and I'd love to have you over there. So till next time, love you. Thanks for tuning in to the Tattooed Truth podcast. If this episode lit something up in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, leave a review, and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a truth bomb. If you're craving deeper support, guided healing, or a space to reclaim your voice and power, check the show notes for ways to work with me. Remember, your truth is not too loud, too bold, or too much. It's exactly what this world needs. Keep showing up, stay wild, stay true. I'll see you next time.